Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Tio, you surprised the heck out of me there. I was like, where'd that come from?
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
That was me.
That's just
I'm
raw
guilty.
talent. That's what that is.
Oh, you were the talent. Okay. Yeah, you played that off good. Yeah, we're gonna start here in a little while. We're gonna let people move over from from Red Summit's video, and that was pretty interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and really watch that one over well because CW is on my list. And
He's doing a double down on CW today, right?
yeah, I didn't get that. The ninja thing is later.
Time,
yeah. Oh yeah. We all know how that goes. So let's see what we're at here. I just moved my. Looks like we got people here now. Good. Welcome.
Yeah, the chat's filling up.
Welcome everybody. I'm Chuck KK6USY for Ham Radio Ventures, and to my left we have the Smoking Ape. Go ahead, Ape.
Good morning, everybody. Hello to everybody in the chat. I'm excited today. We're going to get to talk to Colin about his antenna, which looks pretty fancy, if you ask me.
Yeah, it is. Tio, tell us about the Tio temporary offline.
Yeah, I take stuff that is offline and get it repaired and get it back online again, whether it's old computers or old radios or brand new Raspberry Pis or whatever. I'm always playing with some piece of kit, getting it taken down to bits and brought back up again. So that's what I do. All
right. So our guest today is Colin and Colin MM0OPX. Colin, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Hello. Well, thanks for having me, Chuck. It's great to be here, and really appreciate the invite, being part of the event. So I've been licensed 10 years. So 2011, I got my ticket. I live about 10 miles west of Edinburgh. I live in West Lothian. It's a little place called Uphall. All our towns kind of join together here. So, but yeah, I'm about 10 miles west of Edinburgh. It's pretty central where I live. So kind of centre of Edinburgh is about 20 minutes away. Glasgow is about half an hour. I can be up to Dundee in about an hour. So yeah, it's quite a central location where I am. And I've lived I lived here since 2015. So before I moved in with my girlfriend, now wife, I was still at home with my folks, and I lived in the country about 30 miles north. And that was when I really got into kind of ham radio. But they lived on half an acre, so I couldn't do anything I wanted. I had to be careful, but I was able to put things up. I had a hex beam. I had an 80-meter loop. It wasn't particularly high, but I had an 80-meter horizontal loop, and that antenna was amazing. It was just great.
The people love those. They say they work fantastic.
It wasn't really because of where the harmonics are. It was optimized for 40 meters, and that's where I wanted it because I didn't work 80 much. But on 40 meters, it was a great DX antenna, and I could work VK. Which is if you work in Australia, New Zealand, that's about as far as we can work here from the UK. Yeah. And I could work that no problem with that antenna. So I move over to this house here in Uphall, and it's got an absolute minuscule yard compared to where I lived before. So I had to think differently, and we'll get to that. That's how the antenna come about, because I wasn't able to put up the hex beam and I couldn't put up the big loop. I had to think a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's pretty.
You said you said 40 on your hex beam?
No. I ran 40 on the loop predominantly.
Oh.
The loop, although it was an 80-meter loop, if you've got an 80-meter antenna, the bandwidth on that antenna is pretty narrow. So it worked on 80 meters, kind of in the CW portion end of the band. Mm-hmm. But when you got up above 3.7, it was hopeless. But for 40 meters, it covered the whole band. So I basically used it for 40 meters. It was my 40-meter antenna, which gave, obviously, because it was two wavelengths on 40, it gave some gain.
Yeah, I've never tried a loop. Tio, you were kind of looking into that, weren't you?
Making a loop antenna?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking into making all the antennas. I just don't have all the time.
That's true. So maybe we'll. If the viewers don't know Colin makes a really, really cool antenna that's it's adjustable. It's a vertical, and it does. I think it does what's probably 6 through 80 on your big ones, right?
Yeah, so depending on the variant, there's two variants. One's got a choke balun, which is kind of coax fed inside the box. You can work 80 through 2 meters on that. And on the version without the choke, which is the one that I recommend, I think the one with the choke's almost a waste of money, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Yeah. Do you really want to spend the extra just to get 2 meters when you could stick up a little vertical for 2 meters? It's probably going to work better than what this antenna would on 2 meters.
And I've got Yagis for 2, so
exactly.
Let me bring up Tio's got your site here.
Yeah, most of your links in the chat.
Okay, yeah, most of your shack in a box type radios have 2 different antenna connectors anyway, so you're all set for that. There's only a small handful of radios that use one connector for all of the bands.
Yeah.
Right. And your ICOM's that way, isn't it? Which I thought it only has one connector, right? Your 706?
705 has got one connector. The 706 has got 2.
Oh, okay. I got that backwards. Yeah. Okay. So
I dropped the link to your YouTube channel too, Colin.
Excellent. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Colin's YouTube channel, check it out. This guy he's doing stuff that other people aren't really. I mean, I've seen a few people do them. He's working multiple antennas now, and just check it all out. You can sit there for a day and watch some of his videos there.
Yeah, Colin, how long have you been working on building this antenna?
I think it was 2019. It was early 2019. It was envisaged, so it's probably 2 years. Probably 2 years it's been going, and it probably took me from kind of concept or inception to actually getting sort of what you see on the screen there. It probably took 6 months.
We got a super chat
about,
here.
Sorry to interrupt you, Colin, but we've got this thing.
It's a new music.
Oh, Gio doesn't like this. Red Summit, $5.
I'm hidden behind Red Summit's logo. I don't have to dance.
Yeah. Oh, God. I got to change that next time. So he's $5 for the thank you, Red Summit, Charlie, for the Scottish accent. Excellent.
But I mean, this was like, you can see this is a brute. This was like the first proper working version, and it's absolutely massive. And this actually has 2 FT240-43 cores, so it's perfectly usable. It's got these are M10, so what's that? 3 8-bolts in it. It's an absolute beast. Yeah. But I took this antenna, so when I first took it out, I took everything and the kitchen sink, and I took it down to my little saltwater location. I'm glad I was the only one there. Nobody could watch me making a fool of myself. So anyway, eventually I set this up, and I got it set up it was about 9 o'clock, and I had my generator, I had my ACOM 1000 amplifier with me. I took everything with me, and I turned on the radio, and it was just quiet. It was just dead. There was nothing. And then I tuned about, and then there was one stateside station. I thought, maybe the band's not dead. And I kid you not, I just put one CQ call, and I just had this almighty pile up from the States, and I was just totally blown away. And I worked about 40 stations that night, right the way from east to about Alberta, I think was the furthest western station. And I knew that this antenna, says this is going to work good. I thought it was just okay. It was salt water. I appreciate it was working over salt water, but you still got to have the antenna as well.
Take every advantage you can get, man.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I sure do. So Jason from Ham Radio 2.0 wants to know, what is the difference between the essential and the standard models?
So the design is extremely modular. So this is an essential. So the only difference is it doesn't have any adjustable radial. So if I put them side by side, they're back to front, but they're identical. But you can see one's got an adjustable radial and one doesn't, and that's the only difference. But they all have this little swing bolt here. So all you do is remove that bolt, and then you can fit an adjustable radial to it. So it keeps, if you were to produce this, it keeps production relatively lean. And then you're only making one variant. Well, currently, obviously, I have 2 variants because I have the choke version. But effectively, there's only one variant, and you either have the adjustable radial or you just use your own ground radials. So it's up to you.
With that choke, you're using? So you said you had 2 T240-43 cores in there. Is that what or 31s?
No. So on the prototype one, I had 2 240-43s, but on what you could see or what you could actually buy, there's only one 240 43 core, and then wrapped around that is it's a similar coax to RG142, so it's called DXW142, and it's rated for about 20% less power than 142, so it's still good for 3 kilowatt, but the ferrite core, so it'll be good for about 1 kW CW, which is, you know, more than ample. But if you buy it without the choke, which is what I would recommend, just buy the straight version, no choke, you'll be able to run full legal limit on that antenna, no problem at all, stateside, no problem.
Yeah, and you could just put a choke. You could just put a choke on the bottom.
Exactly,
of it anyway, right?
because you could put a line isolator on the bottom of it, because luckily enough, I've never experienced common mode with this antenna. But if you do have that, just stick a choke on it, and you're good to go.
That's it's very clever. I watched your playlist on the antenna and watched the build and stuff like that, and it really is a impressive design. I was asking about the reels earlier, and if they had like a gearing mechanism in there, and you were saying it all is friction fit. So would you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah.
So if I have, I'm just trying to see if I've got a bolt here. So here is a reel assembly here, and you can see it's as simple as it has a ring connector. Hopefully that's going to zoom in.
Yep.
So effectively the bolt goes through like so. Sorry, apologies, that's not zooming very well, but this is just a friction fit. On the other side of this, there's actually on each side of this, there's a penny washer, and it's just once you adjust the reels, you then just tighten up your wing nut.
And there's like copper or brass inside that reel, right?
No.
The ones you sent me, actually, it looks like on the back.
Right. Okay. On the reel, yes. So on the inside of the reel, it's like I think it's a brass. It's a brass center. There's like a brass bush, so it's not going to wear out. So don't worry about it wearing out. You'd be there till doomsday to wear this thing out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're not going to be moving it that frequently. Just enough.
Yeah.
But it's not moving like constantly as you're transmitting. So there's no constant wear. So you'll be fine.
Yeah,
so
you only move.
I started this like a year ago, and this is what I started with. And this is a geared setup here. And the problem with the geared thing is it doesn't want to go in reverse unless you turn it by hand. And then it was bulky, it was my first attempt. But
prototype, yep.
That was prototype. Then I found Colin, and Colin was nice enough to send me some reels because I had a hard time finding those. And I'm making basically kind of like his newest version, and he'll probably show you that.
So Colin, you were saying in your video that you had some trouble sourcing those reels. Like you went through, you tried a couple different models, right?
I spent probably 3 or 4 months looking for reels, and how I came across, because I've fished all my life and fly fished as well. But these reels here, these were I purchased these probably when I was in my teens, and I just happened to be clearing out my old stuff from my parents, and I came across these reels, and I thought, wait a minute, I know what I could use those for. And so that's how they came to be on the prototype. But it was like just months of scouring the internet, and I managed to find a reel. It's actually from a Scottish company. I think they'll be made in China, but they're from a big Scottish tackle shop. I'm not sure how long these reels will last. I never sort of planned on really sort of selling this antenna or selling very many, because it's just a few that there's a handful out there. There's not a lot out there, so I'm not sure how long these reels will last.
When I first contacted Colin, I was like, "Are you selling?" He goes, "No, I don't want to be an antenna maker." And he goes, "I've got a garage that he built them out of your garage, right?"
Yeah, so this garage that I'm in here, so I don't know what it is in old money, but it's 6 meters by 2.5 meters. So what's that? 6'12". What's that?
Not very big.
not very big, eh? And I do everything on this little bench that the computer's on. I do everything on this, So I don't want to be tied up. It's been nice to sell a few antennas and make back the R&D costs and stuff, But it's I don't think I'd want to do it full time. Well, put it this way: if I lost my job tomorrow, perhaps I would do it. But other than that, no. I like to have time to do other things.
So what kind of wire for that?
Yeah, so wire choice, that was my other conundrum. Because I wanted, I'm really OCD, and you want when I designed this antenna, I wanted it to be the most efficient antenna I could build, because I'm thinking I want to work DX. I want it to be, I see people, and fair play to them, but they get a 705 or a QRP radio, and they've got this tiny little antenna, and it looks cute. But how efficient is this antenna? Okay, it's going to get you a few contacts, but I'm about making the antenna as efficient as possible. So getting back to the wire, So initially, my first there was like a trial antenna that I used. I used stainless steel wire. It was 316 grade stainless. But then I started speaking to people, on social media. Oh, don't use stainless steel wire. You won't hear anything. You won't hear anyone. And then there's a paper out there. I can't remember his name, but somebody Duffy, is it Tim Duffy perhaps? Not sure, but there's a paper on stainless steel wire, and it really warns you away from it.
Did the stainless steel have memory to it as well? Because I would think that when you wind up and down, you may have some memory artifacts in that wire, right?
There's very slight memory, and that's what makes it good. So when you actually linear load that, it doesn't kink. It goes back to how it, But I got really hung up on using different wires. So on this prototype here, this first one, this is actually a Kevlar cord wire. It's like that military wire. It's similar to the stuff that DX Commander sells. But I stripped the sheath off it, because you need wire that conducts on its outer diameter, because effectively it just sees this as a piece of the antenna. Because if you have wire that's not conductive on the diameter, then you'll get inductance from the coils, as I found out. So you need wire.
Right. So it'll see the reel as an gotcha.
Yeah. So you need to have needs to be completely conductive right across the diameter, effectively.
So Liberty Cave wants to know, how much does it weigh? I can confirm from kilos if you want to use kilos.
Oh well,
roughly. Give him a rough estimate.
Roughly, so this will be probably about, I'm guessing about 1.5 kilos, something like that. I'd have to 1.5 kilos maybe. It's not particularly heavy.
Which is pretty light, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, there's very little inside the box, and the reason that the box is this size is really purely because it's to get the position of the reels and everything on it. When you use a smaller enclosure, you have problems with fitting everything to it effectively.
Yeah. I bet this is like 6 pounds total with the mast.
Yeah. How many stones?
About a quarter stone.
Plus, I don't have any wire on it yet. So.
And then what you say over there, it's about a quarter stone.
How many hands high is it?
Oh, I think it's Bowfangs now, right? How many Bowfangs high?
How many RPM is the antenna?
So I want to hear a little bit more about how you discovered the inductance problem with the coil, because that had to have been a head scratcher. I mean, it would never even cross my mind.
2 seconds.
Yeah, so while he's gone, I mean, he's talking about making the perfect antenna. And I guess for the perfect antenna, you want a rotatable, vertical, stacked dipole, and you want it to be resonant on all bands from 0 to 12
DC to
gigahertz.
daylight.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's no such thing as a perfect antenna. Everything has to get within the range of what you want to operate. So, like, Colin's obviously not making the world's most portable antenna. He's also not making the world's most rotatable antenna. He's got a plan. He's doing a fantastic job, and this is an amazing bit of kit. I love the way it looks. I mean, it even looks like you spent some time making it look good too.
Yeah. I haven't really, but it's just, I'm lucky it's worked out to that. It's good there. There's getting back to your point there, Rape. So this wire here, this is braided copper, but I wasn't aware that it was enameled. So I bought this wire, and this was the wire I tested. So I made my prototype antenna, and I ran the SWR meter across it, and I was like, it just did nothing. The line was just right across the top of the analyzer.
What is going on here?
Exactly. And then that was the light bulb I went. And I put the multimeter on it, across it, and I went, it's not conductive. So that's why I've never used this. So that's why I ended up,
Well, I was going to leave that out, so maybe that was a good decision. Then it looks like. I think you use that Nano VNA too, don't you?
I use a Nano VNA. I don't use it a lot, and that's purely because I have the rig expert. It's the old AA200, but it's
that's right.
They're just so good to use and so easy to use.
So when you get that lump of wire at the bottom as everything coils up or expands, do you start to see like high Q issues or narrow bandwidth issues?
No. That's one major benefit with this antenna. It's extremely wide banded. You'll get. I'm trying to remember when I last did a scan on the Essential. It's on the manual for the Essential, but with the ground radials on 80 meters, when this thing's completely linear loaded, so you're all the way up, all the way down your spider beam, you're still getting about 230 or 240 kilohertz at 2:1 SWR, which is really impressive for an antenna that's effectively half the height of a full-size 80-meter antenna. So that's the only. I know someone that's got the standard, and he's able. So this is just the standard, and he can get the whole of 80 meters covered in one position with that antenna.
How you're using the spider beam mast? You're using the 12 meter? Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it was originally designed for, and that's what I sell it for. And these clamps, these fit the 12 meter spider beam. But usually when I go out, I use another pole. There's a UK seller. These poles are called Life. The company is called Life's a Breeze, and basically they sell camping equipment and poles. So they have these poles made, and they're almost as good as a spider beam pole. So it's a 6 meter pole, and I basically use that. I use that for 40 meters and up, because I only use 80 meters if I was working at night. So that antenna is 6 meters, and I can work 40 meters on up with that. I would only use this, and I only use the spider beam pole if I'm working 80 meters.
So when you do your element, is that a quarter wave or is that?
Yes, it's quarter wave.
Okay. So you only really need it for 40, you really only need to be 15, 16 feet up in the.
Yes.
So mine is going to be
liking that a lot.
Mine's going to be set on that, like it's that was the Pactina, the DX Commander. I've got that one, so it'll be on one of those, or I've got one other one. They're all kind of basically the same. So, and I was talking to Colin the other day about it, and I think I can get 23 feet out of that one where it's still strong enough.
Yeah.
But I haven't put anything on, because everything's straight up and down. You're not putting, an arch into it or anything. So you might. I mean, I know the 12 meter spider beam will do it, but I'm trying to do it for lightweight. I actually may take this on a soda one of these days. So,
the thing is that if you're not going to operate on 80 meters, you don't need that giant spider beam. And so, like, I'm really intrigued by the idea. You're talking about a sub 20-foot antenna vertical that's going to get you on 40 meters, which is really, really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we'll enter Susan here, and I'll let you interpret that. I think.
Okay. So
can you install more fixed bands? Yeah. Let's show them how you show. Yeah. Show it.
So you have this. So this is your vertical element, but basically there's a connection going from here to also goes to here. So what you can do is you can actually run, I call it the fixed band. So for example, say you were running the spider beam pole, you could run 80 meters on this element and you could have 40 meters on this element. But obviously I call it fixed because it's fixed band. You basically would just run that up the center of the pole. So effectively it's a fan dipole, but one of your bands is fixed. And that provides great flexibility, because you could then, and you could do that with yours, Chuck. With that, what you've got there, you can do that. So
I probably have to put the bolt someplace else, but I never thought of that. I'm glad, Susan. Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. So what it's really good for is, say you want to work through the night. Well, you're going to have 40 meters on this, and then you're going to have 80 meters on this. So you're only going to need 40 meters and 80 meters at night, unless you have something for 160. So I just include this because I think it's really, really handy to have this connection.
And I haven't seen that in any of your videos that I don't remember seeing that.
Maybe not. It's been there for quite a while, but I probably don't publicize it as well as what I perhaps should.
Yeah, I'm really glad she brought that up, because that actually, because most of my sodas and POTAs I use 20 and 40. Yeah, mostly 20. So
Yeah.
I would maybe do the fixed on 20 or on. I'd see whichever one was actually the fixed on 20 probably, somehow,
Yeah,
and then run the other one on 40, and then tune, or vice versa, either way, and then
yeah.
the other bands. The nice thing is the only drawback I can see to certain types of deals is you have to adjust it for each band. So if it's
Yes.
outside and
Yes.
you're in your house, that's the big drawback of
That's
of
big.
this antenna.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but with that bolt on there, I mean, you could have a 20 and 40. I mean, they're the two primary bands, right? They get the most activity on. Somebody's going to come in. I work 12 meters every day, Abe. But I'm liking that a lot. I think that is very cool. Don's asking about guying it out, and how do you do that?
Yeah, so I almost do. I do a similar thing to the KMRD thing. So I'm just going to grab my spider beam pole here. So this was almost borrowed from Tracy, Outdoors on the Air. So he does a similar thing, but he uses a tube that he puts his poles into. So what I use is I use one of these Jubilee clips, but I don't clamp. Jubilee clips, or what do you call them? Hose clamps. Can you see there?
Clamps.
Yeah, that's a hose clamp, Colin.
There's rubber under here. So this is 4 millimeter rubber.
We're going to take a break real quick. Go ahead and finish that. So I'm sorry.
Go for it.
My wife is giving me a hard time for not dancing.
I know.
She should. You need to be dancing.
Yeah, she should.
Yeah.
Susan Nagy, thank you very much for the $5 chat. Thanks for the presentation. This design is ingenious, and I agree.
So
okay,
yeah. So no. So basically, I guy it at the bottom, so you can see I've got this hose clamp, but underneath the hose clamp, I've got rubber. So, but I've got little gaps in the rubber where I've got these little wire
so it
connections.
can still move. That's good. That's
yes, it can still move. I mean, there's not a lot of pressure on this hose clamp, so people think I'm crushing it. I'm not. There's not.
Right.
There doesn't need to be a lot of pressure.
Just enough to hold it, because it's going to go out. It's not going to go down.
No, and quite often,
if you guy it far enough.
And quite often I just guy it at the top of the first section of the spider beam pole. If there's not a lot of wind, I can guide it. It will work fine up to gentle breeze. But if you want to put it in something a little bit more permanent, then I would recommend that you use the spider beam kit. You get the, I've got 2 of them here. It's a little guy belt. It looks like it's made from a car seat belt. And I think it fits round about the 7th section. And I would recommend you do that if you're going to put it up for, and you don't know what the weather's going to be. But even, usually I only have it guyed at this bottom section, and it gets on fine.
That's really it's really cool. And I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions, but
go for it.
So when you have your spreader at the top, is the length or the distance there important? And how did you calculate it?
Well, it was more to do with, it was actually similar to what I could actually buy in lengths of fiberglass. So these are simply tent poles, spare tent pole sections. So these are 2 feet.
So it's just one spare 10 pole section long. Is this kind of how you?
No, it's 2. It's 2.
That's
so
what I meant.
So it's 2 long. So it's So you can see it when it's like that. There's one goes on either side. What linear loading is strange. The closer you have your linear loading, the more wire that you need out. So you've got to be careful of that. So I think Callum talked about this with his big Nebula thing. So when he ran 80 meters, depending on the spacing, really then determine how much wire that you need. So what you find is especially for 40 meters, you need probably another foot and a half of wire if you're linear loading, as opposed to just running a straight vertical. So you need to keep that in mind.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you have markers on the wire, so you know exactly how much to.
Yeah, show that. Let me get you up there again.
That's the most. In fact, I'll go and grab it. Just hold that thought.
I should have had him send me some of these, but they're too big.
Out here with all these props that I'm going to need there. So this is my template. So this is the most terrible part of the job, and I hate doing this, but it's a necessary evil because you need to know where your band markers are. So every band is marked with a little bit adhesive or glue lined heat shrink. So this is actually a template. So basically I lay this out, and then I get my stainless steel wire, I connect them at the end, and I just basically run it out and I mark all the bands. I wish I could get enough colors. This is, I think this is 2mm or 1.5mm glue lined heat shrink. And if I could get enough colors, I could get all the bands in different colors. But because I can only get 3-4 colors, I need to use two markers on each band. It just depends.
No, that's cool. That's very clever.
The markers, they are pretty close to being spot on, but they're close enough that you could put on your radio and you'd be within this sort of distance of being where you need to be. So you don't need an SWR meter. You really don't. The one in your radio would be absolutely fine to tune this. You know.
Yeah, I got you. And it looks like the kind of thing that you could quickly deploy too, right? I mean, it's not overly complicated.
No, not at all. You can do it in 15 minutes. I can do it in 15 minutes quite easily, and I could probably do it in less than that, to be fair. But more of that's when you're guying it out and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet I could get it down to 10 minutes.
I think you could quite easily.
Because but I haven't set one up yet. But I've watched you set yours up, and it's. Yeah. I mean, I can do my mocks at 15, which is probably more work.
Yeah.
I mean, I when I did that at 15, I was used to doing it too. So it wasn't like I just brought it out of the thing after 6 months. So
no. It's pretty quick to deploy. Once you get the hang of it, away you go. As long as it's quite easy. It's quite simple to set up, quite quick. That's what I like. Another bonus for it. And what I like about this is 60 meters. I don't know how much 60 meters. I think you guys have 60 meters there in the States.
Mm-hmm.
It's a band. Yeah, it's a band that people don't use a lot because usually they need, unless you have a doublet, you need probably a special antenna. But with this, you just extend it or shorten it, and then you've got 60 meters if you want to try it.
I don't use it because there's rules around using it that are overly complicated for me.
Okay.
It doesn't do rules.
As in any rules, yeah.
Any rule.
Yeah.
It's not like that's a big deal, really. Come on, Dave.
I know. So I did want to ask some more questions about the ground radials and how you what you do for that.
So I have a ground plate. You can connect a few wires. You could connect just a few wires to this connection here quite easily. But what I do is I've made these little radial plates.
That's sexy.
Yeah. So this is 4mm aluminium, as we say, and basically I just connect my radials to that. So I just have a handful of radials. So this is the SOTA beams, this great SOTA beams wire that you get. And there's 6 wires on every connector. So even using the radials, it's pretty quick. I know some people don't like doing that, but it's pretty quick.
Well, and you really don't need anything that elaborate for the ground radials. I've got a little piece of aluminum this big.
No, anything.
It's little. I can get 50. I mean, 50. Shoot, as many as I want off of the thing.
Have you tried it with 0 radials, or do you know like a good feel for what's too little, what's too many?
Yeah, I mean, I done an experiment, and it's actually, the video's actually on my channel. It's how many radials do you need? It was like, I called it radials versus resonance, and what. I know that we follow the Rudy Sevens thing where you need 16 quarter wavelengths, and I kind of follow that. But I did an experiment in my garden where I set up for 80 meters, and I had 4 radials, and I think they were like 4 meters each. So basically, it was one set of radials, and then the resonance was like 3.9 megahertz. I added another set of radials without touching the antenna, and then the resonance dropped. And as I kept adding radials, the resonance just dropped, and eventually it bottoms out, and it doesn't get any lower. So I think that's the point. That's the point.
And I think Callum he's probably got one of the best videos on that where, who is it? He quotes, it wasn't, he did a lot of research on it.
It's Rudy Sevens, Rudy Sevens.
Yeah, Rudy Sevens. And after a point, it doesn't really matter.
No.
And you know what I use for, I've got that MFJ 17 footer that I use on vertical. And what's cool about it is I can do 15, 17, 10's kind of tough. I think it'll do 10 too. But I run up like 12-foot radials, about what you were
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I run like six to 8 to 10, and
Yep.
I do fine with that. And that's
Yeah.
super fast. And I haven't even noticed, tell you the truth, a big
No.
difference even spreading them out. Just get them on the
No.
ground.
Just get them on the ground and get as many as you can. But I think it works out. The bunches of radials that I have, it works out about 20 quarter wavelength radials. That's what it kind of works out what I use. But because my garden is so small, and if I want to use if I want to do the phased verticals, I need to use the ground radials basically, and I just spread them about, and it works great. It does work. Works great.
That's kind of my idea for mine. But I also have a chalk box with it's probably got 30 feet, maybe a little bit more of it's fishing line, but it's copper fishing line braided. The only thing with that stuff, it kinks super easy, and when you just like what Ape was talking about the memory stuff, and it's just so I'll probably just stick with the with just some ground radios on mine just to keep it light and compact. And Ham Radio Dude, he's got that Lieutenant Dude that he built, and what he's doing with that is he put Anderson power pole connectors on.
That was a great idea.
Instead of messing with those little screws. I hate that too, and that was just a super idea on his part. I have to give him kudos. He taught me this time. So
I'm going to do that for my counterpoises, because like I have. When I build an end-fed half waves and end-fed random wires, I'd like everything to be as modular as possible. And so I've got a couple of different lengths of counterpoise where if I set up somewhere, I may or may not need the counterpoise. And I do have RFI problems with that because there's no ground plane, right? And so I sometimes I choke them, sometimes I don't. And I just want to be able to set things up quickly. Don had a fantastic idea that I don't want to gloss over. He said you could use alligator clips to connect your ground radials to speed up. Not that it takes a long time to undo a wing nut, but if you're talking 8, doing it 8 times.
I've lost the wing nuts before.
Yeah.
Because I like ring connectors better than the forks.
No, the forks. Yeah.
Oh, that was dumb on my part.
No, that's a good idea. That is a good idea.
I do a lot of my setup in my grass, and it's like I'll probably catch that with a lawnmower later.
Well, if you're going to leave it up, then I would do the wing nuts with the ring connectors.
I would too.
Yeah, but where I really think that, like, when I'm looking at this antenna and the more I'm hearing about it, like, this would be a fantastic like field day antenna.
Definitely.
Because you get the takeoff angle of vertical, right, which is awesome, because you're going to be able to get further out, and that's what everybody wants. It looks like you can set it up quickly. You can have like 2 meters as your daytime band, right? So you can have the 2 meter fixed element on there, and then adjust for whatever other band you want to jump onto.
Yeah,
really. I'm more than impressed with the design.
Oh, it just gives me the flexibility, I mean, you laugh, but when I actually had a couple of ATUs, and I actually sold all my ATUs, so I don't own an external ATU after having this antenna, because I just simply don't need one. I think, what's the point?
Well, that's confidence in the design right there.
Yeah,
you get rid of all the.
Yeah. I did my own DX Commander off that 12-meter pole, and I had it set up for 80. And I used to get on with a bunch of guys. I would get up at 1:30 in the morning here. My wife, she basically says, "You're crazy. Just don't wake me up." And I would talk into the Indianapolis, New York, Ohio. There's a bunch of guys in that area, and I ended up meeting those guys in Dayton, which was pretty cool. A lot of them. And what was cool was I had my DX Commander set up for 80. And I also have my doublet, so I would switch between whichever one was the quietest, because there's a thing about verticals being noisy, and that's not always true, especially for guys that go out and do like you do on the coast there. I'm sure you don't get much noise.
It's not noisy antenna there.
And sometimes you get more noise, but sometimes it's a better noise to hear people. And I think the more antennas you can throw up, the better, And like Tio always says, the antenna you got's the best antenna there is, right?
It sure is, yeah.
And that's so true. Okay, where are we at here? We still got 20 minutes, so good. If you guys have any questions for Colin, just post them in here, and we'll try to bring them up for you.
I think it was Bill that mentioned a while back that this would be a great project to add a stepper motor and a microcontroller to.
Oh yeah,
and it certainly would be, and Colin will be the first person to admit that this is a design that he's working on improving, and there are many like it. And there was actually a guy that was on my channel a while back that built a similar antenna with a stepper motor and I think he used Node Red to do the microcontroller programming. So yeah, I mean, all of this stuff is definitely possible. Microcontroller would be fantastic. But
I've quite a lot of people. My neighbor, he's another ham. He's just right across the road from me. He looked at that and I need to put a stepper motor on that, but it needs the mechanicals need looked at before you could put a stepper motor on it, because there's no drive system on the reel. You would need to have some sort of gearing on there for a start. So that's the first thing. So it would need to be a custom made reel. Wouldn't be something off the shelf.
Custom make something like this.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah. And
that'd also be for permanent, right? Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't do that for portable.
No, definitely not. I think it's certainly something. It's something to do, but I think there would be a lot of kinks to iron out, especially syncing the two reels, and when you've got a slightly different diameter on one reel to the other reel, it's accounting for that. But that could be done. It's certainly possible. Absolutely. But for I set it up, and I can't set up anything portable in here in my, anything permanent in my garden. I have a tower that's on the side of the house that I have an off-center fed dipole, which is fine. Wife doesn't mind that, but if I set up Adjustiwave, I put it up at night. I take it down, or I take it down first thing in the morning so my daughter can get out there and play the next day, or the dog can get out, So it's all about getting it up quick and being able to bring it down. So yeah, as I say, it's really been about getting an antenna that suits me for my style of working, and that's really what I've come up with. That's
and you've got tell us a little about. You've got your little place you test in bound by the. I think you told a little bit about it.
Yeah,
so it's by the ocean, right?
It's by the ocean. So
and Teal, bring up that picture. I think that's a picture of the dark one.
Yeah, it's it's called the Firth of Forth. So effectively, it's the end of a river estuary. So it's almost at the mouth where it goes into the North Sea. So it's completely saltwater.
It's on only about
yeah. I think you get a view of the Forth bridges. So there's a couple of famous.
There's this one, but he's also got one. There's one at night too that looks pretty cool. There's another view. Yeah, that's the three bridges that are there. So you're getting a little help there, and I've watched this.
Getting a lot of help. Yeah.
I want to say Colin has a 705, and didn't you make some U.S. contacts with your 705?
Well,
that's the one I like right there.
There you go. So the story with that is, I think it was the first time I took my 705 down to that spot. I dropped my daughter off at nursery, and I had like 2 hours to play Radial, so I was in a mad rush. So I gets down to the salt water, I sets up, and I'm counting down, and the band was really quiet. It was about 10 o'clock local time. So, of course, the 705s, like the 7300s, got the memory keyer for the voice. So I just set it running. And that thing must have run for 5 or 6 minutes. And then all of a sudden, this JA came back to me, and I was just dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it, because from here, especially in Scotland, JA is an extremely difficult place to hit. It's really difficult because you're going over the pole, short path. Really, really difficult to get. And this guy came back, and he was a huge signal. And I have it in one of my videos, and I was just taken aback. I thought, wow, works great. And then I went out again, and I was actually to test the 40-meter phase verticals. So once I'd done that testing, I was just running one antenna on 20 meters, and I hear this guy running a net, and I didn't quite get his call sign, but I knew he was in the States. I've got this on my video again. One of my videos.
Because we have accents over here.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy. So anyway, so he just says, is there any more check-ins? And I just gave my call, and there was that kind of awkward silence. And he went, wow. And he couldn't believe it. This guy was in Texas, and he just could not believe I was running 10 watts into a vertical and making the trip. He was running like a kilowatt. He couldn't believe it. So it's those contacts that really make it for you, And I've worked VK from that spot as well. And in fact, I had a back-to-back. I was calling CQ. I worked 100 watts. This was on my 590. I worked this guy in Australia, and then right at the back of him, a guy tailgated him from Canada, and it was like I couldn't believe it. Really, really, real amazing stuff. When you get that, when that happens to you.
I know for sure. I mean, it's awesome, and it sounds like you're having a blast with that antenna.
Yeah. So. This actually in Hobo for this earlier. Talk to us about your phasing, and this is something that intrigues me. And tell them a little bit.
Phasing.
Yeah.
And
phasing.
you're actually using coax with yours, so
Yeah, so
not-
it's the
you're not-
yeah, no,
yeah, and I think that's the better. Even when I've seen test on both, it's still I mean, it's not a huge improvement, but it's a little bit more efficient than just
well, what the
throwing
coax.
antennas up.
Well, if you buy a commercially made phasing system, you're buying it for one band, and you're tied to that band. But if you make
Correct.
your own phasing system, you just cut your coax lines to whatever you want, and then you could use that on any band. So this is effectively the phasing box, and all there is there's two single
hang on,
pole up.
I'm sleeping here.
Yeah. So there's just two single pole double three relay, double pole single pole double throw relays. So effectively, you've got these two, and then these two. These are shorted together. So you put one antenna to here, one antenna to there, and then you have your delay line that goes in the middle. So when you feed one antenna, this antenna gets fed right away. It then goes through the delay, and then into this antenna, and this antenna gets fed, a nanosecond later. And it's the side that is delayed is the direction that you get the gain in. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's what it is. So the side it's the side that gets fed last is the direction that you go in.
And what do they call that when you figure it's the degree? It's weird because you figure out the degree of that piece of cable.
Yeah, that's right. So I've got some videos on that too, but commonly people use quarter wave phasing, and then they use a 71 degree and an 84 degree phasing line, delay line.
Mm-hmm.
I never remember that right, but I found another design that's seemingly in the low band DXing ON4UN, and he talks about an eighth wave phasing. But eighth wave phasing, eighth wave distance was attractive because I could fit it in my garden, and I could fit an eighth wave for 40 meters in my garden. So that's the route that I went. So the feed lines, so the antenna lines are 157 degrees, and the delay line is 39 degrees. But to cut it accurately, you really need an analyzer or your nano VNA or something. But it's not difficult to do.
Do you have a video?
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've got a playlist, but I think maybe have. But I've got about half a dozen videos on phasing, Christman phasing, and this was the problem. I went onto YouTube, and if you look for videos on phased antennas, phased verticals, there's almost zilch. You'll go on, and somebody will say, "Here's my phased verticals," but they don't tell you any of the detail, how they did it, how they made it, absolutely nothing. So I had to, effectively do it from scratch. I had one website. I can't remember the guy's name. It was a W4 something, and it was his drawing that I effectively followed. And this is 90% his drawing. I show that on one of the videos again, and that's his circuit basically. I've used, and it works fantastic. But I haven't had a lot of time to play with it. But so far, it's working great.
Dom wants to know if you use the MMANA or something like that to model your designs.
I have, but MMANA doesn't like linear loading for some strange reason.
Oh,
the maths in it doesn't like it. It gives you what is the radiation pattern, but if you look at the SWR, it's a mile away. So I have done the modeling, but I would take it with a pinch of salt. I think because I use the single elevated radial, whatever direction you put that radial in, you will get slightly more gain in that direction. But if you model that against ground mounted radials, it's not really worth talking about. So people really get hung up on radials, really, and I think it matters more when you have them on the ground. But if you're using elevated radials, and even one elevated radial, it will be a great performing antenna. So
yeah, that's how you set it up a lot, especially in the beginning there. I know. This whole talk is the stepper motors. You saying multiple bands on this phasing. This sounds like the perfect Foursquare. To tell you the truth.
Yes, you could use it
especially with stepper motors.
Yeah,
and Tio's probably got the computer stuff there. He could set us up a thing that made all four of them go exactly the same every time.
I'm going to run it right off the user port on the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
it's like a perfect
does it have a
Arduino.
USB-C?
It's like the perfect Arduino project, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for you guys.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there's stuff you can buy. It's super expensive. Yeah,
He's talking about an adjustable phaser. I still need to get a regular phaser, not
Is that a phaser? Oh, laser. That's right.
I need a phaser, an adjustable phaser, and a poly phaser. I don't have enough phasers.
Yeah. But there's another, I mean, just briefly before we go there. So I made this antenna. Now this is really just for me. So I call this the Adjustiwave Multi, and purely because it could be used as a multi-purpose antenna. So because I like loops, I wanted an antenna that I could make a variable length loop. So on this reel, we have 60 meters of the same wire, stainless steel wire. And I can run this in various configurations. If I wanted, it's not linear loaded, obviously, there's only one reel on it, but you could use this as a quarter wave radial quarter wave vertical if you have radials. What I like to do is I like to run a loop with this. Now you see these two connections on the back here. So this one is the center conductor, and this one is the ground connection. So what you could actually do is you could mount this to your 12-meter spider beam pole, and you could connect your 49-to-1 unknown, and you have an end-fed half-wave antenna, and you could just adjust the wire to what length you want it to be. So that's one example you could use this.
And you did a loop too. I just remembered that.
Yeah, and that is this antenna, this very antenna. So basically, I run the wire out, and I just connect onto here. So I just short the wire to here, connect my coax, and away you go.
It's so versatile. I mean, any of them will pretty much do that if you put the right connections on, right?
Yeah, and I run this antenna. It was a Polish DX contest. Now I guess Poland's about 1,000 miles. I guess as the crow flies, something like that, 800 miles maybe. And this antenna, it was like 4 feet from the ground, and it worked amazing. And people think when loops are that close to the ground, they don't work, but they do. Okay, I actually have to put a 2-to-1 balun on this, because if you have a horizontal loop, if you have it right in the air, well clear, you need a 4-to-1 balun. But as you bring a loop, in my experience, closer to the ground, the impedance actually lowers. So in this instance, I've got a 2-to-1 balun that I just connect onto here, and I connect the coax into the 2-to-1 balun, and that allows me. It's like an NVIS loop, effectively, but it still works out to a good distance. It's not just working a few miles.
And if I remember right, you only had that like about 4 or 5 feet, right? When you did that video.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I was using.
You made contacts, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I was working a lot of stations, and I'm going to actually. I did that comparison in one of my videos where I had an Adjustiwave standard and I had an Adjustiwave multi. And what you found was you get to that point, it got out to kind of Eastern Europe, and then the vertical kind of took over because it was further out. But closer than that, the loop was actually louder, but the loop was much quieter. In every instance, the loop was actually quieter, like for like, but loops tend to be a little bit quieter.
Yeah, especially probably low, that probably helped. That'd be good for like I've got a radio that has basically a third port for listening. And then when you key up, it goes on whichever antenna you want to transmit on, and that might be a good setup. Like that. I'd probably just use wire, but
because everyone's talking about these loops on ground these days. Everyone wants to make a loop on the ground for receive because of the amount of noise that we're getting. So that's one use for it. But it's just what I like to do. It's just experiment, isn't it? We all like to make stuff, and I've always got to have a project on the go. So. So this really kept me going for a long time, but now I'm thinking, what am I doing next? What am I making next? Because I have to be thinking about something.
Well, I really like hearing about the loop antenna, and you're saying it's only 4 or 5 feet above the ground. Tio, you need to get, after the stream ends, run out there and put one up real quick.
Yeah,
for FT8 off, that'll be your secret weapon.
I need another secret weapon. Yeah,
but it's really fantastic. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this conversation. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's learned something different about this same antenna. I mean, I've learned a couple things today that I didn't know before, and I tell you, we've chatted quite a bit on his channel, and we're kind of the same. We like to play with things. He's a lot more. I mean, when you guys look at what he builds, we said it before. He doesn't charge enough because it's all quality. Everything's really good stuff. Yeah. Just like there's other makers too. But I mean, and if you had a place to produce this thing, you'd probably make a ton of money on it.
Well, I'm curious as to how many orders got placed during the course of this video.
Yeah. Well, none so far. So
one per subscriber.
I'm checking now. So I've no emails so far. So none yet.
Check your subscribers afterwards, because if everybody that said they did, you've probably gained at least 20 tonight. If that might be low.
No, that would be good. It'd be good to get the subscriber base up. That would be good to. That would certainly be good. Get a few more subscribers.
And what are you at right now?
I think I was at 720, something like that. I lost a few actually last night. That's about half a dozen just dropped off overnight.
YouTube's got a bug right now with their subscriber
count. Probably not that, because we're all encountering that same thing.
The curve goes like this.
Yeah.
Strange. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even watch it that much, and I notice it. So, this has been pretty awesome, dude.
Todd said he's going to be ordering within an hour.
Well, I don't want to cause a panic, but this standard is the last one I have. I have other units, but I don't have any of the real assemblies. I have everything I need to make them, but it's probably, if so, that's just a warning. If somebody wants one, they're going to be waiting about 2 to 3 weeks at least. But
Andrew's
so
ordering.
Don't be.
I
think Andrew's the German Scotchman, if I remember correctly. But
so I do have his channel, but Steve, that's a good idea. I'll put his website in there also. If you just put,
I'm glad I thought of it.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for thinking of that.
Oh, you meant the other Steve. Okay.
The other Steve, the guy that drinks all that coffee, man.
He's like 3 pots in already this morning.
I know it's late for him. Let's see what else we got. I didn't see any other questions. You see any other questions, guys?
I did.
No, but I think we're good. Who's next on the playlist?
Okay, yeah. Next, I think we have one of our good buddies, the Ham Radio Dude, doing All-Star Link overview, and he's got the presentation by KC9ONA.
Yeah, that's Andrew Silthy. Andrew's a good ham.
Andrew,
he's a good ham. Charlie Brown.
And I'm interested in this one too, because I'm moving into that. Maybe looking into some All-Star stuff. I was actually on the a repeater the other day, and it was linked through All-Star. I wasn't on All-Star, and I'm like, well, you got a 6 call. Where are you at? And he's like, oh, I'm in Utah or something like that, or New Hampshire. I forget where he was. So that should be a real. And Ham Radio Dude does an awesome job with all his stuff. He's there's a reason he's got the subs he has, and. Yeah. Go ahead, Ape. Talk about your channel. Sell yourself. I mean,
on the Smoking Ape, there's no G in there. It's no G. And I do videos on ham radios and ham radio accessories. So check it out.
TL loves that no G.
No G, yeah. Because I keep thinking of Dave Kassler with KE0OG and his Augies. That makes you have the Noggies, right, Ape?
Right. Well, what's funny is Kassler always says 1S. It's Kassler with 1S.
Yeah.
So I could say it's Ape with 1A.
It is. It's Ape with 1A. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So we had a hell of a pile up earlier this morning on 6 meters. I saw Ape's call sign on there. Made a contact with him in our previous live stream. So go back and check that out. And
it was killing it on 6 this morning.
Searching down the PSK reporter and see if you can narrow it down to whatever call was in Nebraska by some dude. What is your name now? We figured it out the other day on Callum's stream.
Wilbur Ridgely.
So it's out. And now we've got Nebraska. We've got Wilbur Ridgely. All we need is at least a couple of more letters for a call sign, and we're good to go.
Hey, Colin, tell us what you can about your channel. And
so it's really kind of portable antenna related. It's not all about Adjustiwave, and I don't want it to be all about Adjustiwave, but I make a number of antennas. I've got a Moxon build coming up, so that's coming up pretty shortly there. So inspired actually by yourself, Chuck, but kind of my own take on it. So I'm making a 20-meter Moxon, so for portable use. But it's really antenna based. That's what it is, and kind of field portable antenna. So not necessarily SOTA, but gotcha. It's antennas. That's what I'm into. Whether that changes, I maybe need to get a subject matter to kind of concentrate on, but I really just do what I want to do,
Okay.
and hopefully people like that.
That's awesome. And I'm Chuck, KK6USY, Ham Radio Adventures, and I'm trying to hit 2,000 by the end of this weekend. Probably won't
Sub
do
Chuck.
it, but so sub.
I'm trying to
sub,
hit
sub
100,000.
freebie.
I'm trying to hit
100,000
100,000 by the end of the
I
weekend.
mean, if I could hit 100,000, that'd be awesome too. So we're going to say goodbye. I really appreciate everybody getting up early and or some places it may be later and joining us today. So later, everybody.